Okay, so everything is fine. My name is Alena. I will tell you today about the process of searching for employees for half a year or 1 year. And if you think that there is some special system how to hire top managers or senior specialists, very serious guys. I don't know how to do that. Maybe you tell me about that, and then I get a bonus um, from my company for knowing that. Okay, so first I will tell you about the background, how the process of hire was organized before I took that. So, if somebody of you worked in management and sales, training courses, webinars, you probably know this image. I think this image really illustrates how this searching process is organized. So, this is the visual um, representation of how candidates can be filtered at the first stages. So, have you ever participated in HR search? Did you help HRs? Well, actually, I don't know what kind of talents they have. Where do they search for employees? Except I know only Headhunter. Maybe they have some other databases. But this HR search funnel is the biggest one because when we call out that we have to look for a candidate, the people from the HR department they try to cover uh, the maximum amount of candidates. They really try to find a person or an expert who suits our description, and they try to find candidates most matching these requirements, and then we interview them, and if they fit, that's okay, or maybe we understand that they don't fit perfectly, but we can train them, etc. So this is the HR search funnel, and what's happening here? HR takes over this task, then he looks in his databases for some candidates, and then he calls various people asking whether you're interested in this job offer or not, and then he forms a list of candidates who potentially agree to change the place of work or in active search for work, or at least are eager to listen to our proposal. And in the at the first stage of search, it happens like in LinkedIn. HR writes to you, are you interested? No, that's it. And then the search is narrowing down because many people say no from the start. And the second funnel is smaller than the first one, and but it's requires more work because you have to call people, talk to them. When if you participated in this first interview by phone, then they are asking what is your expected salary, what are your other expectations, why do you want to change your job. It's like they are just checking whether you are adequate at all, and also they're checking whether you would agree for the salary they are going to offer. So this is kind of a small psychological test. After these preliminary calls, the funnel is narrowing down even more, and it becomes a technical interview. There is a QA department, head of QA or QA lead. Uh, when you have several meetings per day, 2 hours per interview with potential candidates. This funnel is the longest, the toughest one, but after that we have even narrower funnel when after every meeting we collect so-called council where HRs, where other QAs, there can be head of KPM present, and they check all the interviewed candidates and decide to whom they can offer a job, because some candidates might be very good in general, but they might not fit the job at all, I mean this position at all. And at the end we have our favorite onboarding. If we like a candidate likes us, then that's it. Bingo. So I think this funnel, this search, also it can be used by your company, and you know the process, and maybe you were hired like that, so you know the process from the both sides maybe. And also it seems to be an ideal system, and well, this is a short description of each stages of the funnel. But after a while, when our company started to grow and marketing developed, and we started to look for actively for candidates for to participate in the projects, and sometimes we had situations when there was a very steep demand for some candidate in some area, and it might seem that HR department was working in standard mode, but suddenly customer comes and he needs 5 to 7 people for a project, or he is expanding his company, and then we had some problems with our process because it was not efficient enough. We thought about changing it. So here are disadvantages of this system that we used. Advantage is that the system is working, and it was tested. We didn't develop it ourselves. We've acquired it from our colleagues. We know it from our own experience of being hired earlier. Also, the disadvantage was overloaded HR department, and we had a lot of meetings which we couldn't process. Why? Because there were some sudden there were situations where we needed just one candidate, and that was okay. And then after a while, we needed a lot of candidates or a whole team to be hired for some specific project just in a very short period of time. And then it was not possible. And these outliers, I mean, these situations when we had to hire a lot of people in very short period of time, it was a big stress for our HR team, especially for those who did these technical interviews, and also because of the number of meetings for the HR department, for the technical departments. That was a big stress. We were not able to concentrate on our tasks, and that was not good. So we thought, oh, well, can we improve that? Maybe we can redistribute the responsibilities, the roles. Maybe we can redistribute parts of this funnel, or maybe involve some new people into this process, or maybe automate some parts of this funnel. And so I will show you what we've added. So we've added online testing and online tasks, test tasks for junior and middle. Those who work in the dev department, this online testing is not something new, but for manual testers, it's not very widely used, so it was new for them. And instead of a funnel, we got kind of a chain. So we started from test, then this online task, then we started the CV if they passed it successfully. We started the CV, and also I will tell you about this online tests. It was mainly aimed at juniors, and also in the company we had training courses and kind of onboarding system. We were looking for juniors and juniors plus, but unfortunately we understood that the guys, they passed the interview, it was successful, the knowledge was enough, but when they started to work in the projects, or even at the stage of the testing within the project, we detected some gaps in their knowledge which we couldn't even expect. For example, you have to set up an environment, or you have to fulfill some task, and we asked the candidate, okay, set IPN, follows these links, and the person didn't even know what is VPN. He learned some part of the test in theory, so he passed the tests, or he passed the technical interview, and nobody asked him about VPN because you have to know that by default. It's very easy, but he didn't know that. And but these problems, of course, in the real practice, they were obvious, and the online test made our task simpler. both for the future onboarding and for HR departments. That helps us to understand whether these people are kind of literate in the IT or in computers use, to understand whether this person is ready to work in the project at all. And HR departments normally they don't ask these technical questions. They normally ask like what you expect in terms of salary. He's asking something to understand whether he's adequate. But in the online testing, um, um, the questions can be various, and also what was very important that HR department sent these online tests, but they didn't have to know the answers to these technical questions. He just saw the graph showing the positive and negative results, and he could understand whether this guy is literate in computer science. And also, when we've sent these online testing tasks, some people tried to open this test from one computer, reading the questions, rewrite it, and then open this link in another computer after Googling them. Or, for example, one candidate who was interviewed was like doing the test, but his friend who knew more, he sat near him, or he was Googling, helping him to Google, and helped him to pass the test. So, how we try to minimize this cheating? We set a limit on IP, on how many devices the test can be opened. Also, we made a registration, obligatory or mandatory registration with last and first name. Of course, you can install VPN, you can use some test emails, but we at least understood that if this person installed VPN and was able to cheat, probably he's literate enough in the computer science. At least he potentially can learn how to do things. So these tools can help. Some of them are free of charge, some are not free. They are in Russian and English, and also they have quite a convenient interface. So if you want, you can use them. Also, we had this online task. This is just an example. This is not our online task, but it's just an example. But the point is that we developed quite a simple form for login and password. So every any form with 3 fields can be used with barks in there. So and they had to test it, find the bugs, write test documentation, and send it to us. It was this test was used for middle, for junior plus, who had at least half a year of experience, according to their story. Also, the student syndrome. We shouldn't forget about that. How we prevent them cheating us, so that we could assess their knowledge and skills.
Линк на онлайн-задание. У него было 90 минут для того, чтобы все сделать и отправить нам результаты. Также фиксировали время отправки. Почему это важно? Было такое, что человек открывал...
Пойди спроси, может, еще раз.
Давай я буду.
И был такой кейс, что человек открывал линку в 10 утра, допустим, в 10:05 он им присылал уже задание. И фиксирование вот этого времени давало посмотреть, за какой промежуток он его выполнил. Нам было не важно, он там справился за 89 минут или за 80, но когда было очень мало времени от...
But when it was very little time before opening the link and sending it back, it means that the task was done not by himself. And having a database or the fields that were filled out were saved in the database to check whether there are repeated UMLs, there are there are special UML generators for testing. So to check whether there is a fake UML. If there was a fake UML, it also caused certain questions, and we approached the candidate to ask why is it so. Also, having a database helped us a lot. It's very important, because in the future we created a potential candidate list for HRs in the future, both positive and negative, blacklist and whitelist, so to say. So when people completed the task, they were added to the database, and HRs could see this table with people, or we had a black list, and HRs could also check people in the blacklist. Importance of CV. We changed the procedure of studying CVs. First, we looked for candidates, sent out a test task, then we shortlisted candidates, then we added online task for them. If test and online task was done good, then we studied the CV or checked the CV, reviewed the CV. Because unfortunately, juniors, they lack a skill of self-presentation, they lack a skill of CV preparation. And it also allows to avoid some bias or prejudice, conscious or unconscious. When you don't like the font type in the CV, that makes a wrong impression on the candidate and might impact this candidate in a negative way. If you open a CV and the person is not able to self-present and he adds some extra information to the CV, or CV is not properly organized, and it might affect your decision to invite this person to the technical interview. So that's why we decided to reverse the order. So we had online test, then online task, and then CV. And it allowed us to expand the understanding. For example, online test is good, online task is good, but CV is not nice from our viewpoint. Still, we decided to invite this person for an interview because we could see his knowledge, we could see the test and task results. And this funnel was very useful for a candidate. If one of the task or test was bad or poor, we also check the percentage of score for this online task or test, and again we judged in favor of the candidate. If he had an ideal CV, we could see that online task is worse than others, we would invite him for an interview. We would ask more questions about the online task during the interview to check why the results of the online task were quite poor. Well, yes, we are in favor of any kind of automation. We are in favor of introducing any tools that would simplify our hiring process and looking for candidates. Well, after that, we had certain changes in our department. We had a lower workload due to the following. When HR was looking for a candidate and then sent in a link for a test, when later on they had less opportunities to invite these candidates. If we could see that the online task was very easy, what is VPN, what is cookies, what IT stands for, information technologies or internet technologies. So this is kind of adequacy test. So if the person failed this test, we didn't even call him for an interview. So we had a chart of right or wrong answers. It took 5 minutes for the HR to have this short test because the HR call lasted for 30 minutes, so it saved a lot of time. Pre-selection, we also could study hard skills of a person during this pre-selection phase. And shortlist candidates, and the person will not reach the interview stage. If we could see that he skipped part of the task, if he or she didn't find any bugs, etc., we didn't invite this person for an interview. And the number of interviews was reducing for an HR, for QA. And another advantage is the creation of the database. As I mentioned before, we judged the test results, the task results, and CV, and after that we included a person into a database. It was a kind of green card, or if a person cheated during the task implementation, we included this person into a kind of red list. And when searching for candidates, we didn't apply to this person again. So disadvantages is technical support and check of the test task. What technical support means when we send an online task, people were saying, I can't open the link, I can't download the file, something is not read. And candidates didn't open usually these tasks during business hours. They usually opened it after work, like at 9, 10 in the evening, and they were writing to you that, wow, I can't download the file, the link is not opening, please fix it, etc. Help me, support me, or send me a new link. And they were sending these messages in the evening, so there should be someone who would agree answering these queries. And checking the task. This is just before the interview. We needed to have a specialist, a senior expert, who would check the trial assignment, the trial test or task. Well, if you finally decide on having automation, you need to assess the workload on HR. If you have a large company, 1,000 employees and more, then it means that you have a well-developed HR department, and there might be a HR dedicated to individual projects even. Because these large companies might have HR specialists dedicated to specific features or projects. Well, then it would be logical to have automation. If it's a startup, if it's a small company, they don't have a lot of candidates applying. And it happens on the ad hoc basis. For example, some people leave the project, you need to find 2-3 people again. You have some backup. Then it might be useful as well for this company, for this ad hoc hiring. These companies, less than 50, 60 people. These companies usually they don't have any resources to keep a pool of experts. The trial assignment or task was prepared by lead experts. So for the preparation of this test assignment, you need to find a person who will prepare it for you, and then you will need to change this online task or test. The percentage of cheating in online tasks increases with time because these online tasks leak to the internet, and people can know what kind of bugs need to be detected, etc. And candidates, they already have a kind of database of these online tasks, and they know what kind of bugs they expected to find, etc. So that's why the update of online tasks and tests is needed. Also, you need to dedicate a person from QA, a person who will be checking online tasks and trial assignments. So usually it's a person from the team that is hiring a candidate. It's logical because this person will be working with this candidate in the future, and they need to judge what is more important, working with documentation or preparing documentation or finding bugs, etc. And support is another important aspect, as I mentioned before, to help would-be candidates with opening the task or clicking the link and supporting them when they have problems. For example, people close down their links or tabs by mistake, and they can't open it up again, and the clock is ticking for this online task, and they need support. So this kind of technical support is very important. But as I mentioned, we tracked time, and we checked their IP addresses as well, trying to understand whether they're cheating or not by asking for additional links, etc., and saying that the link is broken. That's it from my side. Do you have any questions? Thank you for your presentation. You spoke a lot about cheating, and that's quite clear. But there is an opinion that developers, testers are lazy people. That's why they automate everything to simplify their life. Didn't you have any cases when people were cheating, but by doing that they were demonstrating their ability to automate, to simplify something? They showed their knowledge in IT by cheating. Or they managed to implement a task in 10 minutes, for example, violating your time limits, because I had such cases. I hired this person right away when I learned how they cheated, and I understood that they really know a lot about IT. Well, yeah, thank you for this question. Yes, we had such cases when people were changing IP addresses. One person was passing the test and they were looking at the right answers, and we were hiring junior QAL after some training, but this junior QAL rewrote our task. He changed the code and said that this task would be better. So we didn't hire him as a tester, but we hired him as a developer. And he decided to go into junior development. Yeah, there were a couple of cases like that. Well, this person that I mentioned, he's a lead developer now. He likes it very much. And he mentioned that he had no idea of going into development. He just wanted to be in testing because it's easy to become a tester, etc. Yes, we took this factor into account as well. Thank you for your presentation. You mentioned about the adequacy test. So this list of answers is provided to the testing department that is hiring. But I had a situation when a company had the same list, but they had very special, very specific kind of communication, and they had very specific questions for candidates. What is your favorite meme? And something else about initiation, etc. So how do you judge about the adequacy of this list and possible answers? Maybe a person whom you give this list, he's tired or had a sleepless night, etc. Well, I understand that all these questions and questionnaires are quite subjective. You might include different kinds of questions with different levels of complexity. We applied to one of online testing schools who did questioning, and they applied this questioning to take future QA juniors for training. So we relied on their experience.
So as they told us, they changed it, and after the questioning, they took the feedback. I mean, what did you like? Which of the questions you considered to be adequate, which were not, and we relied on the experience. Most of the questions we actually took from them, tested with them, and also we passed it ourselves. We considered it to be quite adequate, and we used it. I think even our questionnaire that we sent out, I think you have to receive feedback on that, so that to understand whether it's adequate or not from the point of view of a candidate. And at this level, step by step, to develop, to improve it, to change it, to amend something, and to make it more adequate, so that, I mean, the candidates consider it to be adequate, or rely on the experience of others. For example, we worked with online school, which is giving this training for several years, and they had some analysis done as well, so we could rely on their experience. Or you have to invent your own methods, also again receive the feedback from your candidates, or make your own survey within the company and improve the questioning on your own. Thank you very much. I have a question. So you give this test to completely freshmen, or if a senior specialist comes to you, does he also pass the same test? No, I was saying that already, that we use it for junior, junior plus, and sometimes for middles, and some seniors, when they say that they are seniors after half a year of work or 1 year of work, then yes, they have to pass this testing. For high or top QA, we don't use that. It's like, I mean, it can even kind of confuse a professional guy, and he might decide not to work with us because we give him a very simple test. But if you know how to automate search for seniors, you tell me. If so, then I get bonus in my company. I am also doing automation and training, so maybe we can talk in person afterwards. But if the online school was doing this for you, but if you have some issues with this training system, do you ask them how to fix it? Or no, we do it on our own. The online school gave us only this questioning part, and everything else we did ourselves. We took this online testing from them because it was a quick start, and we could at least be sure that this questionnaire would not also reflect our own opinion, quite biased maybe, about what candidates have to know, but it was also opinion of the online school, which is more unbiased because they have 5 years of experience and they already understand what candidates basically have to know. So it was the shortcut in order to spend less time on developing something on our own. I am from a little bit different world, so I don't even know how juniors pass that. So the disadvantages that you listed, is there any disadvantage that even juniors refuse to pass these tests? So at the end, some candidates are not reached because they don't want to pass the test. But what is his motivation? Because he can go to another company where he doesn't have to pass the test. No, but he will have to pass through this HR call, through technical interviews. So the other components of the funnel will have to be passed anyway. So he cannot be hired just because he's a beautiful guy, smart. Guy. So that's why it's a simple component. So you mean that people normally do not refuse to pass the tests? Well, some maybe do, but very small number of people. And I told you that it's for junior plus, middles. So if these people refuse, then it's okay. Why? It was not a problem for us because the number of these people refusing was very small as compared to those who agreed. If it would be 50-50, 50% of people would refuse, okay, we would think, okay, maybe it's not very adequate. Our approach is not very adequate. But at the end, it was not very big, this number of people. Thank you for your talk. And have you ever assessed the efficiency of conversion to this automation? You removed the load from HRs and from people who had to make interviews, but the load on those who have to check the test results or develop the tests is high now because you have to update the tests, etc. So, it's kind of redistribution of the load? Was it effective? And did you assess what is the time period within which the efficiency can really be seen after implementing the system? Well, yes, we also calculated this metrics very roughly, like man-hour system, and also in terms of costs of the company for per person who participates in that. Well, those who have to check the tests, yes, of course, they have more work. But when we calculated how much the number of interviews was reduced, because normally it can be PM, QA lead who make these interviews, and they had to spend quite a lot of time for these meetings earlier, and the number of man hours was much more. And also, if we calculate how much time and what are the costs of one person who has to check the online tests, so it was more. And also we motivate people with bonuses, I mean those who check the online tests. And also this test was part of his like kind of job duties, standard. Or some people, they want to learn how to do onboarding, hiring, testing, and then they even asked to include this in their job duties. Also, it's not permanent load because it's fluctuating. It's not like a person get this load and he has to do it 2 hours per day during the months. Normally, it's just 1 or 2 weeks, like when. And the peak of these online tests checking lasts a couple of days only. And then, based on these tests, there are interviews, and also we try to do so that those who do online test results checking, they also do the interviews. So it's around a week when he has more load, then 2 weeks of rest, and if we don't hire anyone, so then he has a week of additional extra load again. But yeah, it's like this. Also, you mentioned blacklists. It's quite an important thing for all candidates. Can you share these blacklists? They are shared by all the HRs of all companies, or are these some internal list that used within one company, and is there some time period during which they are valid? For example, if a person cheated you or something, but in a year he wants to try it again, would he be refused to participate? Well, yes, I cannot say that it's an international online testing, and in this blacklist there was a kind of branch or separate section. I mean, the blacklist was for those who cheated, lying, and even after somebody noticed that he was cheating, he still was trying to lie that it was not open, he couldn't open an app, he was in the village, there was a blackout, etc. So telling some stories, they got to the blacklist. And also we had 2 more lists. For example, those who passed the online test, failed to pass the online test. Yeah, there was a period like half a year, and in half a year he could be given an opportunity to pass the online test again, because he could learn something. Maybe he could, after the first test, he could understand where he has some gaps in the knowledge, and maybe he learned something, and now he can be quite skilled person. So, and even they themselves sometimes made the second attempt after half a year. And we had another list when a person passed online testing, but in the interview this person is good, but for this particular position maybe this product is quite specific, etc. So, and we had to start his work in a week or 2, but he couldn't do that. So, and the person, this candidate is good, but he just didn't suit this position. But when we get a new job offer, we of course wrote him that try to apply for this job. And like we had several types of lists. One is really black, very blacklist, when people really try to cheat and when so that the person is a liar. But there are just a couple of dozens of people in this list, not hundreds of them. And even we had a policy. Our company policy was is that even if this person learns something and he becomes a good QA specialist, but his soft skills are probably not very good, he won't be a good employee of the company in the future because he's lying, because maybe some other negative consequences will be after that. I mean, maybe his behavior will be improper. So, I mean, the human factor was also taken into account, and if a person lies or cheats, it's not good,